hangar, just theater. Stingray.
Probably Chinese.
So the U.S. Air Force. Who has the second largest Air Force in the world? The U.S. Navy. Like who has who has the largest Air Force in the world? It's the U.S. Air Force. And who has the second largest? And it's the U.S. Navy. And then it's Russia, and then it's China.
Wow.
Even like one carrier is probably like, you know, the Naval Aviation
About 1,500. So. This is cool.
1920 to 1942.
But look at the cost difference.
Yeah.
But look at this. That's kind of what the first set of Navy fighters and airplanes were looking at. This is one of the first jets over there. That was the Demon. I mean, this is the Demon. That was the Tiger. These were some of the first jets. Yes, the jets were bad, they used gas, they had all kinds of issues that we didn't have with propeller planes, but that was the next generation.
Oh yeah, P-51 looks like if you remove the top wing.
See, it looks like this, right?
Yeah.
That's just exactly what that looks like.
But they took the top off.
Right, basically.
Imagine they really improved their vision and just performance.
Oh,
yeah.
Everything. It's like a whole order of magnitude.
Just make a wider wing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Stronger engine too.
Yeah, and so at the same time, you can, if you're building a 4,000 pound plane, you can build a 4,500 pound plane because you've got a bigger engine. Well, that 4,500 pounds that you do things like, the main thing that the Navy had over the Japanese planes were self-sealing fuel tanks and armored cockpits. So normally it was like a plate behind the pilot, and then fuel tanks that didn't explode. So the Germans didn't have either of those. They made real light planes that could super maneuver, just hop and jump practically. But if you shot them up, they just burst into flames.
Oh.
The F-86 Sabre was the Air Force's main fighter for Korea. And the Air Force always went for hot rod fighter planes. That's what the Air Force wanted to be, a fighter Air Force. They didn't really want the bombers.
767. If you go faster than that, you break the sound barrier.
So this was a copy of the real famous F-86 Sabre for the Navy. But the problem would be that you crash an airplane on the aircraft carrier, and the Air Force plane didn't have to do that, so you couldn't really transfer the same design to an aircraft carrier plane because they weren't designed to do that. So it wasn't totally successful, but the F-7U is super unique.
That's cool looking.
It's kind of a delta wing like that Skyray was. They have a lot of neat models.
Yeah.
What's that? Is that an S6 Saratoga?
Yeah, this is the World War II model carrier.
That's turned out to be like good enough, but then as jets got bigger, you had to have a bigger aircraft carrier. So this was the next step up, and it was actually the physics, the mechanics of the design were totally different concept. So yeah. So now we're in the post-Korea era where
This is just before Vietnam.
people had kind of made all they understood how to make an engine better and how to design an airplane better, and they were still built with guns, but the next thing that was going to come around was radar, having to fit in a radar into an airplane. Here's the Marine jet, the Banshee, and then see all the things that they paint on the fuselage.
Yeah, how many they shot down?
Well, it depends on what the picture is. So those look like bombs. So that might have been bomb runs or something.
So these are all different mission orders?
Yeah, and so like you count them up, and then whatever this design means is a specific thing. If it had been like a Russian star, that would have been a Russian airplane shot down. If it had been like the bow of a ship, that means a ship that they sunk. Or if it was like an actual bomb shape, that would have been like a bombing attack that they made, that kind of thing. So, say this is big. Oh, okay. So this is supposed to be like a camera. So see these windows, it says this is a photo reconnaissance version. So it has a different nose. And see the hinge here?
Yeah.
The piano hinge. So this whole thing is a panel. These are the clips. And see the windows, each one has a specific kind of a camera.
Okay.
Oh my god, look at that. It shot so much footage that it would have circled the Earth 6 times if unrolled.
So yeah, this would have actually changed the war. This was a whole, if you think of like steps of development stuff, this was a whole step above.
An whole generation of plane above?
Yeah, this was the whole next generation. It was a whole step above the P-51 and the P-47, which was the Air Force's main fighters.
Why didn't it work?
That escorted the B-17s and B-24s on bombing runs. This was just so fast. It wasn't a fight. They'd come in and they'd shoot a couple planes down and they'd go.
Yeah.
And then make another loop and they'd come in and this way, planes down and go. And
You couldn't catch it?
And there was no stopping them because you couldn't catch them. They had total freedom of movement, freedom of operation. The engines, basically. It's engines are pretty difficult, and they're not just like steel and aluminum. They're nickel and different metals and high temperatures and stuff. And one of the things that the Allies tried to prevent the Germans from getting was metals and ore and tungsten and things like that. So they just couldn't produce engines that would last more than like 20 or 30 hours type thing. And then it would get pulled and rebuilt or whatever.
Kamikaze.
So of course that made it super light and more maneuverable. Just this thing was a rocket. Yeah. But so see, one of the differences, you had two machine guns on each wing, so 4 instead of 6. So they had to trim that down to make it smaller. But it wasn't really successful because everything after the end of the war, once the end of the war hit, then it was jets. Any airplane with a propeller was on the block. Had been told that they're going to get retired.
Yeah.
You're going to get retired, and there's no severance. And so this was kind of one of the last of the super fighters. Thing shoots forward, right, for a certain distance. So this is super cool. This is all chronological. See, there's that first Langley right over here with the biplanes, and then we develop and then
Get some Zeppelins.
Yeah, airships. The Navy worked with airships for a while, and they actually had airships that would carry little fighters.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was pretty cool. And then we get over here into the propeller planes. So see, there's the Corsair, and there's the F4, and there's the F6, and there's the Dauntless and the Avenger. That was that main air wing at the end of the war. And then see, there's the little Bearcat. And then we get into the first jets and the modern jets. The Tomcat was the shield of the fleet in the 80s. The Tomcat was the shield, and the A6s up there were the fist of the fleet. So that was the most powerful the U.S. Navy had ever been, was the number of carriers in those two airplanes. And so the U.S. didn't want to do it, so it ended up being kind of an economic thing. So this is cool. So this is how a ship is built. To see each of these vertical...
Yeah, so you get shot and it doesn't fill up the hole.
Right, it
compartmentalizes.
Right, so
oh, but there is holes, so it does fill the one whole ballast. Or whatever.
A ship like this, you build the outer hull, and then you build a layer, say like the second floor.
Yeah.
Well, instead of the wall, you build like 4 walls in, and then you have the center that's got all these walls. Well, instead of having empty spaces, you can fill them with fuel or air, different things. And so that helped with the protection also. And then some of these would be watertight bulkheads. And so if you got hit here, the Navy's criteria was like one section and 2 others next to it or something like that to be floodable.
Yeah.
And so the idea would be, the torpedo guys are working on the same thing, right? Don't take me wrong. The torpedo guys are trying to say, well, okay, so we need a 900-pound warhead instead of a 700-pound warhead, or 1,100 or whatever, right? So the enemy's doing their stuff too, right? So the idea would be it's going to hit the ship and cause damage, but if you could limit it, then you could survive.
Yeah.
And so that's how.
Live to get back
that
to
was the
shore.
concept.
Yeah. It's
And
compartmentalized.
well,
Well, Titanic was the first to do that too, but like compartmentalizing.
right,
But it went down the whole side.
right, it cut too many compartments.
Yeah.
Is what happened.
Yeah.
And so, ideally, you would not have to go home and get fixed. You could stay in the fight for 3 more days, because remember, it's not like Seattle fighting, San Francisco or something.
Yeah, it's on the Pacific Islands.
Yeah, and so you're like 4,000 miles from anywhere.
Yeah.
Not 4,000 miles from America. You're 4,000 miles from, Australia,
Fiji or whatever.
Midway, or different things like that. So you want
Guatemala, right?
you want to have to survive
Long enough to
stay
at
in the
least be
fight,
repaired and
to help your other ships, right?
Yeah.
You're in a package. You're in a Navy package of other ships, so you don't want to have to leave. So the idea is you can either fight, and the minimum is surviving and get to a base to get unloaded, and then get back to the States for really repair. But repairs like that mean, getting into a dry dock, getting it out of the water, get the water drained, being able to cut all this stuff out, right? And remember, it's like, it's not just here and here and here, it's going to go in.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to cut all that stuff out.
We're talking like months.
Yeah, months and months and months. And so, see, here's the deck edge elevator. And this is how they kind of stack up a flight deck. You couldn't operate like this because there's no room to take off. But
Yeah.
what you would do is you'd have this much full. And then this is all in order, right? You don't just mix up the stuff. You have to do it in a special order. Who you want off first to stop at the front of the line,
Yeah.
and then you start taking off down the carrier. So see, there's an Avenger, and see, here's a Corsair. See, this Corsair has rockets.
Oh yeah.
So
Air to air.
that was no, those were just air to ground. Air to air rockets didn't exist.
Oh really?
Not then, right? So those were air to ground, but they were really good against some ships, but mainly
That's like for anti-air stuff, right?
no. This is for like shooting up a tank or a bunker that's got the infantry pinned down, or
Blowing up a building.
or running down a runway, right? And shooting up airplanes that are parked.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal. Or
And just destroying the runway itself.
yeah, I mean, that would probably be the Avengers dropping bombs, and then you rocket stuff, and then anything in the air you machine gun with the F6s kind of a thing. So I mean, there was it was used in a ballet.
Yeah.
Different planes do different things, and so.
Naval Flyers.
So see, this would be the guy, which number airplane you're in, because maybe if number 6 has a flat tire, he's not going to fly, or this is where you have to sit, and there'd be someone up there.
Mission
showing out,
plans.
This is the numbers, and talk about what we screwed up, or whatever, what we're doing tomorrow, or training, or we're getting, like.
Well, at the end,
So
we
this
know
is
where
what
we
it would
are.
look like.
We know.
And be like.
Get together on final
So
arrangements.
now we kind of assume there might be more simulators in here, like Nintendo things.
Yeah.
Practice, or everybody has a screen on the back of the guy's in front seat or whatever. That
All having like iPhones.
well, kind of like practice or something a little bit. But this was it. Then that would happen.
Yeah.
Then you would actually go up to your airplane, because you can't. Back then, you couldn't sit in the airplane. You can't have an airplane running 24 hours a day. And then you had to have weather people.
Yeah.
And every ship had to have weather people that knew what they were doing.
If all else fails, look out the window.
Right. And then the pin
Why does it say that?
Yeah, if all else fails, look out the window. Because you had to know.
At least they have a sense of humor. On the ship, you kind of
Yeah.
have to.
You kind of have to. And then doing the parachutes was a real specific, specialized thing.
If your parachute fails to open, return and we will give you a new one.
So this was the aerological thing was pretty important because you couldn't send people out and everything.
Buy cigarettes by the cartons.
Yeah.
Cigarettes and candy, right?
Yeah, cigarettes and candy. That's literally all this is: cigarettes, candies,
Right.
and
And then
tooth powder.
sodas,
Yep.
and then ice cream. Were normally what that little shop, what that little ship store would have.
Oh my gosh. This would
This
suck.
This would be kind of how.
I hope they got all the new magazines on top.
No, those are
All the
pinups.
Pinup girls.
Yeah, the pinups.
So not only were there these six, I don't know if these were.
This is for like emergency.
Another four more. I don't know.
Oh, this is just your
And
menu.
then there's your lockers for your stuff. There were only eight guys maybe or whatever.
Whatever it is here.
So and then this is
We get polished steel for a mirror.
Polished steel from here.
well, because glass would break,
Yeah.
shatter. These had to be we were expected to have to survive a damage. I mean,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't like, oh, we got lucky that time. It's like, wow, that was bad. So this is another guy for You like this guy? We shot down that many Japanese planes for example.
Yeah.
And six guns, three on each wing. That was one way to measure a fighter plane. Oh, sharp. 5 seconds to wet. And then sew them up in 10 seconds to rinse. You see, here's kind of the store. And this would have been the communication or weather, different things like that. Typewriters.
Mosquito net around their bunk.
Oh gosh, yeah. If this was bought up by now, it was supposed to be terrible. I mean, just terrible. Not only were you attacked all the time and shot up and bombed and everything, but you had see the cans around the legs
Yeah.
of the bunk for bugs and stuff on the ground because it was wet and muddy. The boxes of dinner, breakfast, and something. Yeah, that's probably the ration box. And I get half the gas.
Hello.
Things like that. It's not survivable.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Navy Fort. This was the home front in World War II.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yes.
And so what is this? Is this a store
Typical grocery
or
store.
a post office? Both.
Both. Gas pump out front, post office in the back, groceries in the
And the
middle.
deli type thing or the meats, the cooler, I guess, or whatever.
Right, right.
My granny that had to live through this, but no, I had
School. Pretty Miss Hairnet.
Hold on. Sorry, Joey. In 1942, Harley Davidson was a government contract, so the controls are on the left-hand side.
Okay.
That's so they could carry their gun on the right.
Mm.
But this particular one
Seat looks comfortable.
was Army surplus
Okay.
in the back of a comic book. Kid sees it and asks his dad, "Can I order it?" He goes, "Well, how much is it?" $50.
Which was a lot of money probably back then.
Save the money. You give $50, we'll order it. Well, he did. But when it came in two big crates
Oh, you had to put it together.
in pieces. He was a little kid. What did he do? He stuck it in the attic and forgot about it.
Oh, wow. That's where this particular one came from?
Many years later, he goes back home. He's an adult. He put it together. This is all original. That's the amazing part.
Yeah.
This is
I get it.
all
Right.
original. He actually rode it to the museum. So it was
When did he put it
in-
together?
Well, the museum's had it about 15 years.
Okay.
And it's one of the few things the museum doesn't own.
Okay.
It's on loan.
Oh.
So they had it appraised. He paid $50 for it. it appraised for $28,000.
I would have guessed even more than
I would've
that.
too.
Well, it would be today, but this was years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, okay,
years
right,
ago.
right, right.
So who knows what it's worth? It's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it.
Sure.
Exactly right.
Priceless.
That's probably the best conditioned one of its kind.
Oh, absolutely. You know what year Harley Davidson began?
Nope.
Do you know what year the Ford Motor Company began?
No, like 1906?
Do you know what year the Wright brothers flew?
1906 too, I think?
03.
1903.
03.
All three of those things.
1903.
1903.
Cool.
Now you've learned something.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that might have been a washing machine.
Yeah.
And
That's the dryer.
That's the ringer, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of going through the ringer?
Yeah.
There really used to be a thing called a ringer. Scrap metal. Fender, engine, that, right?
Wurlitzer.
Alpha cruiser or battleship. There's the Bearcat, the little F8. See, it has a four-bladed propeller, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the tricks at the end of the war. You couldn't build a four-blade propeller initially. That was like a trick. That was complicated. Originally, there were two blades.
Why was it hard to do?
Well, because see, the middle is kind of a silver X,
Yeah.
steel, and then the four propellers. The propellers turn in there a little bit,
Yeah.
and it was hard. It was
Oh,
complicated.
so the machinery inside to
yeah,
get
to be
the
able to make
yeah, that's how you go faster
squeeze
and
4 sets of machinery into that rather than 3.
Right.
Originally, it was 2, so that was like a production trick
that's cool.
to get to that. 4 light carriers to attack a target. So that's literally like
A lot of fire.
No, you're right, Jason. That plane with the shark mouth, that's a P-40.
Yeah.
So you're right about that. Right? I didn't realize it worked. So this plane's one of the Mitchell, like off the carrier. Those guys were crazy. I mean, those guys were really committed to
President's plane. President's helicopter.
yeah, something like that.
Oh.
How do
And look at those blades.
Yeah. So you'll notice it has two blades, right?
Yeah.
So the newest models have 4 blades. That's the new thing for helicopters, is jumping to 4 blades. And remember, I told you the big helicopter out front where we parked had 7. So I was showing Brett to sell that junk at the top, right? So the blades twist like this to make it hover and
Yeah.
and
Up and
rise
down.
and descend. So it's kind of like those propellers. At first, you'd only cram two blades worth of stuff on a helicopter. Then it got to be you could fit 4, and that's why that one helicopter is pretty special, because they fit 7.
Yeah.
It's just like the propellers went from 2 to 3 to 4. Sometimes it's just the engineering of being able to make it all fit and
Yeah.
work.
Right into the danger zone.
These particular jets been active since Vietnam. And
Probably.
They retired in 2011.
Wow.
So that thing's been active for 50 years.
Right. So originally helicopters had one engine, which is unbelievably good. So the Marines had a version, and then they started making Cobras with two engines, and then gradually got modified and updated and moved after 5, 6 years. So the Tomcat, remember I told you some of those planes were designed around those big nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
So this was designed around two things: a huge radar on the nose, and 6 big long-range missiles. And so, of course, if you design something, it's twin engine, right? And it's got power. And if you design something that can do that, well, you can make it do other things too. So that's what that thing is over there that's wrapped up.
What is shoot this? Or this is F-18? No, this is F-18.
This is a missile, so it can shoot those, and F-18 can shoot those. F-18 can carry those, but Tomcats were never really redesigned to carry bombs. That was at the end of their lifetime when they started doing that. But see that pod down there? It says it's a TARPS, Tactical Arm Reconnaissance Pod. So if you got a big fast airplane, you can carry other stuff. So they made a reconnaissance pod for that. So you wouldn't want to rebuild it or build Tomcats with stuff in the nose because it's just too flipping expensive to make that.
Yeah.
These were super
Just add a pod.
specialized. I mean, but they were unbelievably powerful. These were designed to protect the carriers during what the Russians would do in the 70s and 80s. And they did it, and this was one of the reasons that carriers never really got attacked, because these were the Clever Langs and the Rocky Spillane type things of airplanes. They were big and fast and carried 6 big long-range missiles. The idea was they could fly 200 miles from a carrier like this in a big circle on a patrol, and their radar could reach another 200 miles. And the
So if
missiles,
anything got anywhere close to the ship,
right, and the missiles could fire 100 miles. So the idea was you'd have the Hawkeyes over here and say, okay, we think there's 2 bombers coming over here. So you send these 2 guys out, they line them up at 200 miles, and they shoot them down at 100 miles, and they're 300 miles away from the carrier.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the
No one got
point.
anywhere close.
Yeah,
Well-
and you wouldn't even never even know.
Well,
they're
but see,
there.
the thing is, though, the Russians had 300 mile missiles. So this was all dangerous. I mean, this is all had to happen, and you had to have something like this to fight something like that the Russians don't. Because remember, I told you the other guys, they're not dingbats, and they're
It's the mousetrap type.
yeah.
Better mousetrap.
Or no, it's more like the mice are fighting back.
Right.
So, like this squadron might be the Vipers, and this is a Seahawk. So this is the Navy version of the Army helicopter, Black Hawk. Built by the same company. It's pretty similar. It has most of the same structure, engines, transmission, things like that. This is probably one of those big attack bombers.
No, it's talking about it
It has 4 rotors, right? Good catch, right? Exactly. Well, I don't know. That's one of those anyone takes And the other thing about the Navy plane, Navy helicopters, is this. So just like
Fold the tail.
the tail will fall, because
That's pretty cool.
the joke about a carrier is that's the most valuable real estate on the planet,
Right.
because you've only got, they're big. There's no doubt about it. But if you can only fit a whole bunch of big planes on there, so you want to, any like this, right? That's not very much. Oh, so that's enough. That plus that times two of these is a whole nother one of these.
Yeah.
So you've got a whole nother plane. So
It's literally a battle of inches and feet.
it is, and plus, so then they have a special department on the carrier to fit all these planes in, because you can't do this. Hey, Brendan, help me. Let's move this.
Yeah.
Let's move this over. You can't do that. So you have a special department that manages
Just organizing.
all these planes and all the trucks and stuff. So these are all bombers. This is the A-7. So this was a bomber and attack plane. And so there again, it's got a fuel thing. Now, but what's cool on this was second generation. So see, this is a hydraulic thing. this would retract.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit more aerodynamic than having this arm sticking out as you're flying
Right.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that was a pretty big deal. But what ended up happening was this was an attack plane, and the A6 was an attack plane.
Oh, this is for refueling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for fuel. And the Tomcat was a fighter. Well, once you built FA-18s, you could have a plane that could do both. But they don't have any kind of performance close to an A6 and an F-14. But they kind of ended up with what they could get. Okay, now see the big canoe at the top
Yeah.
and the big thing on the bottom, and see it's got a little propeller at the front. It's a electronic warfare. That pod is that's a turbine. It's an engine on the front that runs electronically.
Oh,
jams radars.
okay. So
And
that
so
generates
see there-
electricity.
Remember the two canopies, right? So there's 4 guys in there. So you have a guy that's flying the airplane, and you have a guy that's helping him fly the airplane. And you have 2 guys that are running all electronic warfare stuff. Where they're saying, okay, here's a SA-16. Okay, Timmy, send it this signal. And okay, I got an SA-5 over here. Okay, I got it there. So they're doing this, real time fighting electronics.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, these were one of the things that was a whole separate piece of airplane.
Yeah.
The 70s. What?
Yeah.
71.
They did, because they had to escort planes into Hanoi and Saigon, and so this is the other plane that separates. This is the AWACS. So just like that big constellation out there with the big thing under the belly, right? This is a radar, and so that's a radar. And so the idea is these fly way over here. Like say Brendan's the carrier, we don't want to be flying here because that says, well, they're here. So you send one of these over here by Jason, but see the radar's so big he could catch me over here.
Yeah.
So it's called an eye in the sky, or the God's eye, and
You probably have a couple of them up on either side.
right, depending on the threat situation.
Yeah.
And then you've got F-14s that are out there 200 miles, right?
Yeah.
So now you're talking like a fortress, right? And
Yeah.
you've got all these different layers and all these different weapons. That's why they can roll.
What's that up there? A attack Cessna?
That would have been an old observation or training plane. And then
Looks like a Cessna.
that plane up there, the 810, and this one here, NL-35-300, they're the same type of airplane. They're both A1s, but that one's a special one.
All those little rockets.
The pod thing,
Yeah.
it carries rockets, and then those would be 3 bombs. So this was an attack plane. And so like I said, you had special planes that were attack planes, special planes that were fighters, and once you can combine all those, then you have a few less types of airplanes on it.
Isn't that like a Chinook?
It's like a Chinook. It's made by the same company, but it's a little smaller for the Marines.
Mm.
But it's real similar, the same layout. So this is the Boeing layout with the two sets of blades.
Yeah.
Tandem, as opposed to one big one with 7 blades, right? So that the sense it's easier, 3 blade propellers. Okay. You sure they don't have one here?
I've been looking. I haven't seen one.
Double check at the door.
Ask the guy.
And so that plane, these planes are so big, right? This is a big,
Yeah, for a fighter.
for anything. It's an A1H. So remember I was telling you, it's like the H model. So there was an A and a B and a C and a D. So this is all the way up to H. That one, they redesigned the fuselage and stuff to have a door and a side-by-side pilot and room if they had to pick up somebody or drop somebody, all kinds of things. That one's kind of a real special version of that. This was the F-4 Phantom. This is the one that preceded the Tomcat. So this was the first one. This was the kind of plane that replaced that. That was the single-engine fighter, the Crusader.
Okay.
That was just pure fighter plane with guns.
Yeah.
So this was replaced it. It had 2 guys and it had a radar and it was supposed to fire missiles and of course this is 1969 and
That's kind of weird. The down
that was really
wing.
unique. But nothing worked. No electronics worked like that in the 60s and 70s. So it really didn't work out the way that they had hoped. Like,
Are those Stingers?
Sparrow.
Sparrows.
And it could carry, see up here, see how this is built
Oh yeah.
into the fuselage a little bit?
Yeah.
So the Tomcat's built the same way. It carries 4 big missiles, 4 of those great big 100-mile missiles under the fuselage, and 2 under each wing. And then it's got a little stub wing for fuel tank and different things. And what they had to start doing
That's a huge tank too. The drop tank.
was adding in a gun. They had to basically stick on a gun and wedge it under the bottom because the missiles weren't working out right. So they had to plan B it, and they had to say, well, look, we gotta, right? Plan A isn't working, right? What the whole point was, you have guys in a plane with a radar, right? And you shoot down the planes with your missiles, and then you come home, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't work because the missiles and the radars weren't that reliable. So they ended up having to go in and shoot them down with guns, so you had to add guns on it after all. And then, okay, see the cowling there? See those 6 exhaust pipes?
Yeah.
3 and 3, so there's another 6 on the other side, and there might be some on the bottom and more on the top. That shows you how many cylinders and stuff are in that big airplane.
Okay.
Engine.
A 12-cylinder.
No, like 18. So this might be one of the engines.
Yeah. See the Cessna Bird Dog. That was that thing.
Yeah, yep, Cessna Bird Dog, that's it, yep. So this is the jet engine, and that's the jet engine that we've seen. So this is what a rotary engine looks like. I totally blank out. A Wright Cyclone. It's air cooled. The whole front is open, so it doesn't have a radiator. It doesn't have like a water pump, and it doesn't have all that stuff. So you've taken out a whole system. Well, it's less vulnerable, is what it is.
Yeah, more reliable.
And these were supposed to be really reliable. And the main thing was that there was this guy that wrote aviation books and articles and things and stuff, and he was on like History Channel a few times for different things. He said, gosh, those planes, those engines, you could fly an engine with pistons and connecting rods sticking out of the canopy that'd still run for you to get you home.
Wow.
But a P-51 Mustang had a liquid-cooled engine. So it's like an inline Rolls-Royce engine.
Another system to fail.
And they have a scoop under the bottom, which was the radiator, and then connected up to the engine with the coolant, right? So it's that kind of engine. You get one ping somewhere, and you're going down because it had more stuff to get damaged. That's part of how things are.
More points of failure.
Yeah, it's points of failure. At a certain point, you have redundancy, but at a certain point, at another point, you get points of failure.
A lot less moving parts in a jet.
You have no idea. I think one of these is a cutaway. Okay, so we got to go look at that engine. This is really cool. So
that's a turbine.
No, totally different. So in a sense, all jet engines are the same. Yeah. They've got high power and low power, and then afterburners and stuff. So this is a whole specific engine designed by Rolls-Royce just for the Harrier.
Okay.
It's a jump jet, so it could take off. It could literally take off like a helicopter vertically. Oh, here, you okay?
Yeah.
Did that hurt?
No.
That's pretty sharp. It could see it's hovering.
Yeah.
And see it's got little outrigger wheels. So this is a super special, unique engine designed just for that. This is the exhaust. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side, not out the back, right? See. Yeah. See, this would be
so you
the
could direct
of the jet. And these turn, and so they can point down to lift it up off the ground, and then you turn it back like this to accelerate.
Yeah.
And then you're flying. See, normally there'd be 2 more of these here, one on each side, whatever.
Yeah.
And made it a totally unique weapon. And
the Harriers had issues though; they crashed a lot.
Yep, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
And they're specific.
Yeah.
It's like F1 cars. You can't drive them on the road, but they're super special.
Right.
So, because they could do that, the Marines wanted the F-35 to have a vertical version. Yes, exactly. So, but you know, if that's what you need, that's what you need, and you got to make somebody pay for it. So,
did they end up making the vertical version?
Yeah, they do, right? And a lot of people other than the Marines are starting to buy them because people have realized, well, you know, you might have a 10,000 foot runway at an Air Force base, but if someone bombs your 10,000 foot runway, you might need a 2,000 foot runway because that's what you've got left, right? So people are starting to think, maybe we better buy some of those too.
Yeah, don't even need a runway with those.
So remember, so you notice how this angles.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the whole thing rotates. See that kind of poopy section there?
Yeah.
So the whole tail section moves like this.
Yeah.
And then this thing here.
So just make it more maneuverable.
This is the hook.
Okay.
So it would drop down. Not maneuverable as much as that's just the way they made it, rather than. So like this is all one piece.
Okay.
As opposed to having a bunch of pieces. So it's just kind of a different way of the engineering. You put the motor up there rather than have a bunch of motors on the wing, kind of a thing.
Okay.
So
instead of the little ailerons.
Yeah. Instead of
the whole thing moves.
Yeah. So like this has the wing with all the extra little flaps and stuff, and this does too. That's what all this is for these.
Yeah.
So McDonnell Douglas decided, well, they were going to make it that way, and there's advantages and there's disadvantages, but see, this is cool. So this is an F4N. So I don't think they made A, B's, and C's, and D's, and E, F, G's, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, N, but their Phantoms were different enough that they started a new sequence. But this was the main Navy fighter from the 60s
years?
and 70s.
Oh, 67s?
Yeah, like 65 to 85. And then they got fully replaced by the Tomcat. And the Tomcats were retired about 95 or so.
It's so much less moving parts.
Yeah, but see, all these things, these blades.
And now they're working on like ramjets that are even less moving parts.
Right, yeah. Well, some other different engines that have less parts. But see, all these things have to compress and heat and fire and stuff. So this isn't fender material, right? Off of the Chevy tracks we're driving home.
Or like titanium.
Titanium and special alloys. They're nickel or like steel with nickel, Iconel, and all kinds of stuff. I've never been into metallurgy, but
very specialized.
But a lot of this is what separates this. That's about all that separates the Russians and the Chinese from us, is the engines and the metallurgy and how to make something this precise. The Chinese are still using Russian engines. The Russian engines are notoriously unreliable, short lifespan, all kinds of problems. A lot of these, like the engines on jetliners, they're like 10,000 hours before they need to get maintenance.
Yeah.
And then like 30,000 hours before they actually need to be taken off and heavy maintenance. And so just, like in a sense, they're like almost like not an issue. They're so reliable and fuel efficient. So this isn't it, but the kind of engine that F-35 has, that's the kind of engineering that the Chinese can't do yet.
Okay. And it's more about the materials and...
A lot of it's the materials, right. And then things like their stealth bomber, they're not expected to have the stealth yet, but that's kind of a toss-up because we're assuming that they've espionaged most of our tricks and secrets.
All right. But to be able to reverse engineer, it's another thing.
Yeah, exactly, like that. Between espionage and reverse engineering. That's why I was telling Brendan, we think everybody's kind of thinking that they might have passed us because the two planes that they're coming out with, one of them everybody's expecting to be what the F-47 is going to look like, our new plane.
Oh, wow.
And they're already test flying things.
Wow.
Because their decision cycle is faster, for one thing. Right?
Yeah.
They don't have to talk about it for 10 years and talk to
They're
Congress.
commanded of what they're doing.
Yeah, and they can command it. Well, it's going to take 3 years. Okay, well, that's the decision.
It's kind of less bureaucracy. It's
That's it. That's what it is. And so everybody loved these. These were a fighter pilot's airplane. And then the Phantom became more of a manager, a radar and missile manager type airplane. So
why was this one liked?
It was designed to be a dogfighter and designed to fight with guns.
This is like 60s, 70s?
60s. So they ended up adding a couple missiles, which was cool. And then see how the whole wing lifts?
Yeah.
Well, so that's another way of shaping the wing to attack the air.
Okay.
To make it.
So we do that in flight?
No, that's to help it take off.
Okay. That's
And
like the flaps.
Kind of like, right. So that affects how the wings are designed. And they were built with guns.
Oh yeah, right. Built into the
it had 4
fuselage.
cannons, and this would be the discharge for the shells and stuff. And so, see, it had they made it like that.
Yeah. 330. Yeah. Look at that intake.
Right. So that was the other problem. So see, this is the nose, right? We were talking about noses and radars.
Yeah.
This was the nose for the radar for one of these that they wanted to try to do it.
Yeah.
So see the nose, that's the Phantom there, 101.
Yeah.
See how much bigger round it is?
Yeah.
Literally how round it is makes it a bigger radar dish, which gives it more range.
Right.
So these are little short-range missiles. The Sparrows were called medium-range missiles. So it was just a whole nother. It wasn't like a development. It was like a zigzag type
For
thing.
different purpose.
A whole different philosophy. A bigger
And
plane,
single.
pilot. I mean, this was more like a hot rod, and that's more like a station wagon.
Yeah.
This might have been. So a long time ago, right? It used to be you'd have a bomber with
Nuclear warhead?
a bomber with a nuclear weapon, right?
Wow.
So
Air-to-air nuke.
air nuclear weapons became a thing because the bomber had to get stopped.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. There wasn't. You couldn't send up and say, "Oh gosh, we missed it," and it would bomb a building. It's like, "Oh gosh, we missed it." Well, bye bye San Francisco, right?
Right.
That's how it worked.
Yeah, if it's carrying a nuke.
Right. That was the thought process, because that's, I'm not making that. I don't mean like that's the thought process. God, they were dingbats. I mean that's the way it was. That's what they were trying to combat. So
That's a pretty small nuke.
I know, but it didn't need to be big because you still got to find the bomber, and it was, but in the World War II, you actually had to. Remember, I was telling you had to get close to it, so your guns
For
met
guns.
up, and then get enough bullets in it to shoot it down. And of course, the bomber guys, they're thinking, well, they're going to take shot and shoot us down, so they're making the bomber survivable, right? So
Yeah.
it's like this, so.
And gunners on the rear and
Right, all that kind of stuff, right? It wasn't like, poop, and so.
yeah, get all shut up and still fly.
Yeah, so this was like, the necessary answer type thing.
Yeah.
Was to do something like this.
I didn't know they made air nukes.
I don't know that any Navy planes ever carried this. There were Air Force planes that were specifically designed for this, and vice versa, because the Air Force was tasked with defending the country.
Right.
So that's what Air Force Base in San Francisco would actually have, would be fighters with nuclear missiles and radars and stuff, because they were literally protecting San Francisco from a nuclear attack, from a bomb, and which is terrible, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
So that's why there's so many cities with Air Force bases, because they were literally there to protect it from a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
Because it only took one bomber. That was the trick. And like in World War II, they'd send like 400 bombers to attack a factory.
Right. Now you just need one.
Or 800. Now it was only one had to get through. That was the trick. So you could send 10.
Yeah. But, yep.
And the enemy, couldn't get 9 of them. That wasn't good enough.
Right. You have to be 100% successful or you're done.
Yeah. So that became a realistic
countermeasure.
Yeah. And so this was really.
Yeah, they made a ton of those. What are those called?
This is a Bell UH-1 Huey.
Huey, that's
so
it.
This was kind of the first real successful helicopter. This is when
they made tons of those.
Tons of those, like literally thousands and thousands. And then and the really, really cool thing, okay, so the bad thing is it has one engine. So it wasn't very survivable. But what they did at Bell, the genius thing, they took the top half. They took the engine and the transmission and the propellers and the tail and the rotor to build the Cobra way over there. And then they just built a different body underneath. Now, not for real. They had to build it as a whole helicopter.
Right.
Instead of designing all that stuff, because that's the hardest part is the engine transmission.
Yeah.
The rest is electronics and everything else is just aluminum and riveting, right? So if you can carry all that stuff across except for the body, then that's like brilliant.
A lot of money saving.
And so the difference is.
And tooling for the factory and everything.
Exactly, all the manufacturing. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about $10 million, $10 million a pop kind of thing, or $1 million for a helicopter in the 60s.
Yeah.
So see, it has a pilot side by side, right? So it's this wide. So the Cobra, they had the pilot. They had the pilot sitting behind the gunner. So it's just as narrow as that engine pod up the top. So totally different looking, different.
More capacity?
No, it's less vulnerable. It's a smaller target. Literally.
Okay.
It's a smaller target. So if you have that, then they put the gun under the nose. So now you've actually got kind of like an airplane. You're coming in with a narrow target and a gun, and you're coming in on a target. You shoot all those missiles, right? It's carrying missiles, and then you've got that gun, and then you just keep going. Because there's another helicopter, right? You're trying to find in a 4-ship, right? So you and your co-pilot just did that, and then 2 more, but you're still building them on the exact same line as these guys. So it's not a whole other company. It's not a whole other $150 million worth of tooling and a $200 million building, right? It's just all
a lot of the same parts are shared.
It's just brilliant type stuff. And that's become the layout for attack helicopters. They basically created the attack helicopter concept, and this was how it started. They took these because this was all they had, and it's got 2 machine guns and it's got rocket pods and stuff, but it's got 1 engine, right? It's wider, so it's kind of fat, things like that. So it's not great at the job. Whereas the Cobra was designed.
That was the replacement of this Cobra?
Of this type thing.
Yeah.
This is like an attack version of the basic version. See, it's got the rocket pods and machine gun. Well, this was originally a transport, and then they added guns on, and then they built a special purpose thing. Okay. And then once you've got that, then you can add big anti-tank missiles and different things like, and a bigger cannon instead of a gun on the nose, and all kinds of, and 2 engines, and then it turns out to have 4 blades, and all kinds. You just advance the same thing, like that one from the 50 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Literally,
one of those 50 years old.
They've just been taking stuff off and putting it on, and
lived through 3 different wars.
Right.
Got to see retirement.
But this is kind of what someone came up with, and they said, "Gosh, that really works." Yeah. But we can, and then Bell said, "Okay, we could do something a little bit better," and they built that Cobra. Then it was like, "Okay, that's it." Everything after that, the Russians, the French, I mean, everybody that built helicopters built an attack helicopter that looks exactly like that. Whether it's the gunner and the pilot gunner, I mean, who cares? That's just dumb. But with a nose to the gun in the nose, wings for missiles, tandem seating, so it's super narrow. Now, at the things at the top of the nose, that's like sights and stuff that are night vision and infrared, and 20x optic kind of things, and then the gun underneath. I mean, they're designed for one thing, and that's shooting stuff up, and that's all there is to it. And they're armored, and they have 2 engines, and they have like controls for the tail, right? They have like 3 sets of everything.
Yeah.
In case they get shot up on one side. I mean, nobody wants to lose people, so a lot of stuff.
A lot more survivable.
Things and different things. So, look, here's the anchor because it's in the water, and so they started making models of these called amphibians that actually had a set of wheels right here in the middle, and so they could here.
Yeah.
So they could land on the water, put down the wheels, and get to a dock kind of thing, and get up onto the shore instead of having all these planes floating in the water. So that was really a huge improvement. But
A couple bunks.
something like this, you have 2 seats. So if you put something like those radar antennas, you've got a flight. So you've got a jet. So
I want to see if I fit in the cockpit.
yeah. This was a hot little single engine fighter.
Yeah.
Which means it was kind of limited.
Yeah, this one's much more comfortable. Nice.
This is the actual thing I replaced.
That's comfortable for me, not for you.
Whole, see how much like maybe it's circles, right? Yeah, so you
This one's a little more cramped.
so that's a great thing. And she ended up surviving as a training carrier. So she was actually survived until I don't remember when she was retired and scrapped. Like the late